This is the current scene inside the boat. This is the companionway up there. Funny colors because I have my polarized filter on to protect when I do some welding, which will happen soon. This is where the engine sits. Way back in the back there is the propeller shaft and the packing gland. And you can see, pop over here, back in there where those rubber hoses go, that whole white wall back there, basically all the way to the back of the boat, is the diesel tank. So probably, I'm estimating 80 to 100 gallons of diesel in there. Get a focus on it. Yeah, and then there's a water buffer tank that connected to the exhaust of the engine, and the exhaust hose goes out the back. So my job today is to find 2 sockets and drop 2 of my sockets for my socket wrench in underneath the engine there, and it got buried in the sand when I sandblasted because I couldn't reach them with the engine in place. And then back this way, we've got some wood left over from the companionway, and those are my new stairs to get in and out of here for the moment. I need to pump all the water out from either side of the centerboard, and I can sandblast this floor. So that's what I'm gonna try and do, is sandblast the floor and the centerboard box. So I've finished sandblasting the interior. Woo! Yay! I didn't do all of it. In a second you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a section in the back, in the stern, that the paint is really nice back there, and it's above the water line, and it just doesn't need to be done. So instead of sandblasting it all off, we'll just do some 80 grit sandpaper to prepare the surface, and that will be good enough. So I would say that 80% or more of the inside of the boat I've had to sandblast though, and yeah, I did find a couple of places where the pressure washer, the sandblaster, actually blasted through rusted out parts. One on the bottom part of the hull, and one on the window here and up there, and one right above me here where an electrical fitting went through. But overall we're looking really good. So just a couple of little patches to do, and I can see what caused each one of the problems. So the section over there was where the galley was, and you know, it's easy when you're moving pots and pans around to scratch the paint, and then water always collects in the galley, and you know, water sitting on top of a scratched, exposed piece of metal, eventually it rusts through, and then you got cleaners and chemicals and a lot of electrical wiring that can lead to, you know, stray currents and electrolysis. So, oh, and also a lot of through hulls were there. So I can definitely understand why those parts rusted out. I'm not worried about that. The windows is just bad sealing. You know, they used silicone sealant, which don't do it. If you have a boat, don't use silicone sealant. It's not meant for the marine environment, and there are better products out there, and especially on a steel boat, if you have to weld and there's silicone sealant that's been left over, it will ruin your weld, and it's hard to get off. I mean, the smallest little residue can ruin a weld or keep paint from sticking. So, and it's impossible to get the stuff off of there. So I'm gonna have a real chore on my hands getting all of this sealant off of here and making sure that it's gone for sure before we paint. But we're gonna do it, and we're gonna have a great finished product. So that I need to weld up still, which I will tackle soon. It should be in our next video. Yeah, so back here in the back, you can see there's a lot of white paint up there and all the way underneath and all the way on the other side. All of that is just gonna stay the white paint, and I'm gonna sand it down and we'll paint over top of it. And this whole section through the middle here, pretty much all the way to the back of the boat, is the diesel tank. I still need to empty out the diesel tank and clean the gunk out of the bottom and see how the inside of it looks. I have no idea what's inside of there, so that's going to be an interesting adventure for another day. Hopefully it's a good adventure and not a hard work adventure, because I've had enough of that. Hi guys, I got the generator rumbling away up there, and today it's time to do some welding. I took one class in high school and I've used welding off and on since then, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but I do a good enough job that when you grind the weld away, there's enough metal there and not many voids, so it's good enough. And stick welding, I think, is the hardest. That's what I'm going to do here. I prefer to do oxyacetylene welding. I've also tried TIG welding, which is very similar to oxyacetylene, but you know, you need lots of gas tanks and whatever. Now, MIG welding is the easiest. However, I don't have a MIG welder, and you also need the gas tank, the argon CO2 gas for that. So I prefer just to do stick welding. There's less equipment involved, it's easier to manage, and I already have that equipment. So just remember, no negative comments on this channel. We're all about positivity and helping each other get to where we're going. So let's do it. That was pretty quick and easy. When you're working with metal and you heat it up, it likes to bend, and when it cools down, it bends the opposite way. So what I did is I tacked the top on one side and the bottom on the other side to keep it from bending up and away from me. And now that I've done that, I'm gonna let this cool down a little bit. I'll chip off the slag. That's the flux around these sticks makes all of the impurities bubble up out of the weld, and it lays on the top as slag when it cools. So I'll chip that off, and then I'll be able to weld again without that slag mixing into my weld. That's one of the things that causes impurities and voids in welds. So yeah, I need a new electrode, a new stick as well, so let me go grab that. Just got it packaged up in here. Now, the end of these sticks is hot, but it's coated in some of that flux, so every part of my boat is steel, so I have to be a little bit careful where the end of that stick touches. Otherwise, I'll start welding. Let's chip away our slag. Just have a special little slag hammer here. Finish this weld. Well, my typical luck is holding. Actually, this one isn't down to luck, it's down to me. I was welding away and my welder made a big pop sound and then stopped working. And I turned it off, turned it back on, and the front panel just kind of flashes like it wants to turn on but sees an error and then gives up. And, I opened it up to try and see if I could find what was wrong. I am an electrical engineer after all, and it seems like one of the large transformers isn't working properly, and those are hard to find and they're expensive. And this is really my fault because if you remember a few videos ago, Lee and I were hauling things up into the boat using a rope and pulley. Well, inside of one of those Tupperware containers was this guy, and before the video was shot, I roped it up and we were hauling it up the boat, and the ropes slipped from around the container and it fell about 5 feet to the ground. And you know, that's not good for anything, especially something as loaded with electronics as this is. I'm surprised it even worked at all, to be honest. So for me to be able to do almost 6 welds, yeah, that's a pretty good thing, but it's dead now, so that's that. Gonna have to buy a new one tomorrow. But no use crying about it, we just gotta get it done. It is absolutely freezing cold today. The winds picked up to about 30 miles an hour last night, and luckily our shed stayed in place. It did shift this way a lot. I haven't braced it really, you know, left or right across the boat. It's braced front to back so it can't tip over easy. So it shifted itself this way, which is fine. It'll shift itself back if the wind blows back that way. That's fine. But yeah, it's freezing cold. It's this cold. This is a soft sponge. Yeah, it's that cold today. I have my little Stanley propane heater going, so pretty soon it'll be toasty warm in here. But let's look at what I got to replace my broken welder from yesterday. Yeah, it's not as fancy as my other one. My other one was a stick TIG plasma cutter, and this is just a stick welder. But yeah, this was $250, and it's gonna keep me going, and it's really all I need. It would be nice to have the plasma cutter, but I really don't have an air compressor that can support the plasma cutter right now. And this is a lot smaller and a lot lighter weight, so that's good. Got the welder. So that's pretty much it. You plug your electrodes in and set how much current you want, and oh, this one does TIG as well, so I can use my TIG torch, but you have to have a different way to supply the gas, because this doesn't have a gas regulator, but that's okay. You can figure that out. So yeah, stick and TIG. That's cool. I have the TIG torch. Just need the gas flow for it. So that's it. I think I'm actually gonna throw that last weld on there, and then I'm gonna try and take this lid off of the centerboard box today. Yeah, so we can try and get the centerboard unstuck. So yeah, we're gonna see. I'd like to say thank you to my friend Sean Sweeney. He got me this awesome Duke knife. It's a French knife that has a pretty gruesome history to it. Yeah, it was a gift for being a groomsman at his wedding. So Sean, I hope your married life is going great. You and Megan, I hope you're doing great, and thank you for the knife. It's been a great tool here on the boat. So, alright, I'm gonna get to work, and I'll see you guys later. Okay, I set up my light here. You can see the centerboard. So this thing here is the strap that prevents it from overextending. It's a chain. You can see the thin shape of the centerboard here, and then this square part up top doesn't extend out of the boat, so there's no reason for it to be fin shaped. You can see the pulley system here, so it's 4 times advantage. You got 2 pulleys on the bottom. They would have 4 strands coming out of them, so that's a 4 times advantage pulley system. And then up here this way, I'll move my light up a bit. We've got a little mounting stud for a zinc anode and a ring here which should be for the downhaul to keep this thing in the down position, which they aren't using. So I will definitely rig that up. Well, I'm kind of running out of things to do today. I don't want to start any huge projects because I have to leave to go back to San Francisco early in the morning tomorrow, and yeah, the centerboard is stuck in the up position. I did take the plates off of the pin, the center pin on the side, and it's just a big pin. I sprayed a bunch of penetrating oil in there. I applied a little bit of heat. I hammered on it, hammered on this, I pried on it. It won't come off. So what we're gonna do is test for rust preventative. So I've got this bottle of Ospo. Basically it's phosphoric acid, and it turns the iron oxide into iron phosphate. It changes the iron oxide to iron phosphate, so it's a black, hard, durable thing that you can paint over top of. It seals out moisture, so this is going to be good. It'll stop any rust that I have going on, and we can paint right over top of it. So I'm going to give this a try. I've prepared 3 different sections here. One I haven't done anything to, it's just sandblasted. I brushed off the dirt and dust. This one I sanded with 120 grit sandpaper, so it's still orange and kind of rusty. This one I used a wire brush with the angle grinder. I like the finish that this has on it because it's clean, but it is very, very tiring to do because the angle grinder vibrates your hands a lot. That really takes the energy out of your forearms, and it's also very dangerous because the wire brush grabs on the edges and it throws the angle grinder around. So I might do the angle grinder brush on big flat surfaces and then the 80 grit sandpaper on others, or maybe we'll get lucky and we won't have to do anything. But I'll spray this stuff on. Got a little garden sprayer here, and when I come back next week, I'll do kind of a scratch test to see which one adhered best and which one got rid of the rust best. So let's give it a shot here.
600 square feet, and I think the inside of the boat is probably 700 to 800 square feet. So that's 1 gallon to coat the entire boat is pretty good. It costs about $20. So yeah, this should help us out. I'm tempted to keep going and just paint the whole bunch, but first I'm going to clean up some sand, take that away, and yeah, whatever's left of the day I'll come back and paint some more, I think. Yeah. So, hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you back here in about a week to see the results of our OSPO rust treatment test.